Welcome back to my channel. So a while ago I went pattern hauling and I found this skirt, Simplicity 1559, and I immediately fell in love with the knee length front slit skirt VF. I thought it looked classy, I thought it would be simple to make, and I thought it would be a wonderful addition to anyone's wardrobe. I decided to make it for my wardrobe and record a tutorial for you guys. To make your Simplicity 1559 View F, here is what you need. The pattern itself, your fabric, coordinating thread, a zipper, a hook and eye, and fusible interfacing. So when you open your pattern envelope, you find the pattern papers printed on rectangular sheet, and you will also find the instruction paper. So on the first page of your instruction paper, you find the different views that you can make from this particular pattern. You find different pattern pieces, general sewing instruction. The bottom section here, there's some suggestions on how you can best optimize your fabric by placing the different pieces in different orientations. So the next thing you want to do is go straight to the view that you want to make. Like here you see view A and B, view C and D, and in this case we're looking for view F. So we'll move ahead to right there, and it says EF skirts, and it says use pieces 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and this tells you the pieces that you need to cut from those rectangular sheets. Before you cut your pattern pieces, make sure that you iron the rectangular sheet that comes out of the envelope. It's usually very wrinkled and it makes your project a lot neater when it's ironed. You have to iron it on low without water. So if you do not fit into one particular size from the pattern envelope, you can follow the instructions. These instructions are found in the rectangular pattern sheet. You can follow the instructions here to customize the patterns to your own size. Make sure that you do this for all the pattern pieces. Now that this is done, I'm going to go ahead and sew the dart for the 3 pattern pieces. So fold the dart such that the 2 lines are on top of each other. And it makes a pointy end where you have the dot. And I would just pin them. I would put a pin at the end of that dart, so you know exactly where to stop when you're putting it together. And I will put a pin along the line. It helps as a guide when you're sewing the dart. And make sure that when you're putting your pin, you put the pin bottom side down, so that when you're at the sewing machine, it's easy to pull out. So I'm going to go ahead and pin all of my dart pieces. Make sure that when you're doing your dart that you're working with the wrong side facing up, because once you sew it together and you turn it, you want the right side to be facing up when you're done. So once you're done making the dart, it's a very crucial step to iron them. Iron it front and back, and the instruction that came with the pattern says to iron it towards center. And so you would iron it towards center back. This is the side. If you want to make professional looking garments, ironing is going to be your best friend. So the instruction that came on the instruction sheet says to stay stitch the edge of all of the skirt pieces. Stay stitching is very important because a lot of these fabrics not cut on the vertical or horizontal line becomes a little bit stretchy. This fabric is not very stretchy, but I'm going to just demonstrate the stay stitching just for the benefit of those using fabrics that might be a little bit stretchy. When you're stay stitching, remember that your seam allowance for this patterns are 5/8 of an inch, and when you're stay stitching to help stabilize your fabric, you want to keep this seam allowance shorter. The stay stitch allowance shorter than the seam allowance. In this particular pattern, it says to leave 1/2 of an inch, but sometimes I do a little less than that, just so that when you find the stitchy pieces together, you don't see the stay stitch. And when you're stay stitching, you have to use this a much longer stitch length than the one that you use for assembling your garment. And you don't need to back stitch for stay stitching. There you go. It's a stitch length that is much longer than the one that I used to join the fabric together. And the purpose of this is just to help stabilize the fabric. So when you're adding or when you're joining it to the waistband, it doesn't stretch longer than the waistband. So to attach my zipper, I always like to mark out everything. I like to see the lines and I like to stay within the lines. So I'm going to go ahead now and mark out all of the seam allowances that affects the zipper application. So from the top, you have the seam allowance for the waistband application. So I'm gonna mark that out, and that's usually about 5/8 of an inch. This is essentially what you're gonna have, right? It's gonna be completely hidden, and it gives a very professional look to your garment. And so, like when you're joining two fabrics together, you're going to be joining the right side of the zipper to the right side of your fabric. When you open your zipper like this and you switch it over, this is where your stitch needs to go. And right now you don't have access to that, right? So you need to iron it to keep it open. Of your fabric up, and then put the zipper the way it's going to look once you've attached it, right? Now open the zipper. So the left side goes to the left side, but what you're going to do is flip open the zipper and make sure that the line of the thread, the stitching line, is directly on the line that you've marked. And then start to pin. So the invisible zipper foot is really easy to use. All you need to do is pop out the all-purpose foot that you have for all of your other sewing projects, and then just put in the invisible zipper foot. So the zipper foot has 2 grooves at the edge for sewing the left and the right hand side of your zipper. So once you put it in there, since we're sewing the left hand side zipper now, just to begin with, help guide the zipper teeth away. So guide the zipper teeth away from the needle, and then just make sure that your needle is going exactly where you want it to. And start by back stitching. Of the zipper to the right side of the fabric. So make sure the zipper stopper is just under the seam allowance for the waistband. And then pin, pin, pin. Okay, so we put the zippers together. That's what you get. So for the next step, before you actually go ahead and complete the back stitch, you need to join where the back stitch begins from to where the zipper ends so that you can have a seamless connection there. And the best thing to use for this is the regular zipper foot, because the regular zipper foot has grooves like that, and you can actually use the edges as I will show you shortly for this purpose. And then go ahead and stitch it. And I'll be switching back to my all-purpose foot here. The last step that I made, you can also make with all-purpose foot. It's always just easier. It's just easier when you use the regular zipper foot. So we're gonna go ahead and make a straight stitch the width of this dot all the way up here using machine basting stitch, which is the longest stitch you have in your sewing machine. And then we're going to go ahead and switch over to a regular stitch, and from here to the waist we're going to, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, we're going to stitch all the way to the waist. So from this bottom section where you use the basting stitch, we're going to go ahead and pull out the thread. The next step is to go ahead and attach the front of your skirt to the back of your skirt. So let's go ahead and pin them together. So for your front and back facing, you need to apply your fusible interfacing to the wrong side of the fabric. Out, that's the wrong side of the fabric. And then when you take your fusible interfacing, you take the side that has the glitters, or that is a little bit shiny. That's the side that has the glue, and that side goes on the wrong side of your facing. And then you set them together using a hot iron. You shouldn't use ironing liquid for this. So you hold the iron on the interfacing and fabric until it's all glued together. I'm going to go ahead and iron this. This is a very critical step if you want to have a professional looking waistband. So always better to mark out what you intend to sew, and that way you don't have to make it up as you go. So to make the waistband, once you've attached the facing, make sure that you iron it. Make sure you fold this around about 5/8 of an inch or 1/2 an inch. And then you turn this around, and that makes a really nice waistless skirt. So you turn this around, and for here, remember that you left 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. That you're going to fold over. That you're gonna fold over around the zipper. And you can decide to stitch it down, or you can decide to turn it over and pin it. When you pin it though, make sure that it's away from the zipper teeth. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pin that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin this shot. I'm gonna pin it from the top because most of the stitches I'm gonna be doing right now would be from the top. So that's that, and I'm gonna do the same on this side. That's done. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this shot, and I will be back. So I went ahead and stitched the facing down everywhere I had a vertical line, and that really helps to secure the facing. Something else that I did that would add some rigidity to your garment is to go ahead and sew very close to the seam line here at the top of your facing, and that really helps to secure it down. So you see this kind of stitching line in many ready-made garments. Just try your best to make it as straight as possible and as close to the edge as possible, and that would add a very professional look to your garment. 1 1/4 inch, that's the hem allowance that is allowed for this for view F. So go ahead and measure it. This is what I've done, and then fold it over. If you don't have the pinking shear and you don't have a clean edge like this, you can go ahead and zigzag the edge to make it clean. So once you're done ironing it, just go ahead and pin. You can never pin enough. And at the slit here, you can either decide to fold it over and fold it a second time, or you can decide to fold it this way. Either way is fine. Almost at the end of our skirt, and you see that line looks perfect. You really want the style to be as neat as possible because it does give your garment a professional look. So I'm gonna go ahead and I can't wait to actually put it on. You guys just go ahead and pull out all this annoying thread. You know guys, I made a few mistakes when I was making this garment, so do not be deterred by the mistakes that you made. It definitely makes you better. You know, practice makes perfect. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that your fabric, your garment turns out really nice. And I'm gonna go ahead and perform the last right now, which is ironing and getting ready to wear. So guys, that brings us to the end of the sew along. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys have really learned something, and I really want you guys to make this wonderful skirt for your own wardrobe.